Hello everyone, my name is Lockie and I'm a first year in the Bachelor of Nursing program at the University of Toronto. So the reason why I selected my program for the University of Toronto was mainly because of proximity, actually, to be honest, but also because I know that the University of Toronto has been pretty renowned and provides really good experiences. I've heard really good things from a lot of other people who attended this program in terms of career opportunities and clinical placement opportunities as well, actually. This program is quite competitive in nature, but a lot of the students are very self-motivated. So a lot of them are very nice, and even though they really do want to achieve that high mark, they kind of won't step down or beat you down just to achieve that. It's kind of a we're all in this together kind of mentality in nursing, which is really nice, and you do meet a lot of really nice people in clinical placements as well. So the teaching style of this program is a mixture. So there's a lot of lectures right now, mostly online. Typically this would be done in person and you would listen to the prof talk to you for a few hours. We also used to have labs bi-weekly where we would just go into the laboratory facility in the University of Toronto and practice a lot of the nursing skills that we would learn during lecture. The next and most important thing about this program is the clinical placements. And so there are a large variety of places that you can go to depending on what kind of clinical placement, what unit that you're teaching. A good thing about this program is that they have courses that you're doing during the semester that relate to what clinical placement you're going to do. The course load is quite fast-paced. A lot of information kind of comes to you at once. And this might be because this is a second entry program, so I'll get into that in a little bit. A very important skill for getting into this program is having a lot of problem-solving skills and a lot of critical thinking. The reason why I say this is because a lot of the questions that you get during our exam, they mimic an NCLEX. So an NCLEX is an exam that nursing students will have to take in order to be a full-fledged nurse. So this program is great because it helps kind of prepare you for that examination later on at the end of your program. But the unfortunate thing is that it is quite application based. So for example, if it takes you a long time to link different information together and do that problem solving bit, then this might not be the best program for you. Obviously, if you're really interested in sciences, this program is great if you really want to interact with different groups of people, not just patients, but also with students as well. There's a great diversity of people in our program. The best way to study is to kind of review the material each week, only because it makes it such that the material can stay in your head. And for me, I'm a person who's very hands-on. So if I use the information very often, or I talk about the information often, I'm able to kind of keep that in my brain and regurgitate or recall the information whenever I need it for exams. What I wish I knew in first year, and actually what I wish I knew in high school, is to actually learn and develop study skills early. In high school, I found that a lot of my study technique was copying all of the notes and just reading it over and over again. And to be honest, in university, that doesn't really work all the time because there's so much more information that you learn in such a short period of time that it makes it really difficult for you to just write everything down. And actually, it's quite time consuming. So I find that a better strategy would be, for example, right now I'm using a program called Anki. And what that allows you to do is have spaced repetition. So it gives you can type in a question related to your notes and then type the answer at the back. It's like a cue card kind of program. And this allows you to actually practice and apply the questions more easily. And this is especially important in nursing where pretty much 90% of the questions are all application based. Content that's covered in this program is mostly nursing focused, obviously. So a lot of the nursing skills, for example, how to do a wound dressing, how to replace a tracheostomy, how to talk to patients in general, actually. So how to get a history. And then we, as I mentioned before, we have a specific course related to whatever clinical we had. So with my first semester, we did a mental health and geriatric or elderly population health course, where we focused on how to take care of people in the elderly population in terms of how their body changes over a while, what kind of diseases they're more likely to have, what things to consider, and the same thing with the mental health, like what assessments you're supposed to do for people suffering with mental health. We have acute care, we have pediatrics, and we also have maternity health as well. So a very wide range of different subjects related to your role as a nurse in the community and also in the hospital setting. So again, I mentioned this is a second entry program. So you must have completed at least 2 years of university before entering or being able to be eligible to apply. And you have to have at least 6 courses, can be at the 100 level. Your other courses must be a second year level. So when you get into university, they have 100, 200, 300, and that kind of determines what year of university you're in. What you have to do is you have to have a 3.0 GPA, so that means it's a B minus. For scholarships, and this applies for any other program, unfortunately, grades really matter. So if you have really good grades in high school, and then if you keep maintaining those grades in university, then you will have more opportunities to get scholarships. And so for the written portion of the application, I'm not too sure what kind of extracurriculars they look for. Obviously, it's better if you have a lot more extracurriculars because it makes you more diverse as a student and a little bit more interesting than just your grades. So for example, if you volunteer at a hospital, that's pretty good. Or if you volunteer with marginalized populations, volunteer with kids, etc., etc. So unfortunately, with the University of Toronto, the nursing program, there isn't much choice for what courses you can take, and the schedule is pretty much made for you. But for easy to hard courses, to be honest, I never looked at whether a course was easy or hard. I'm very course or like interest motivated, if that makes sense. So I typically pick courses where they have topics that I'm really interested in, because I find that if you're really interested in the topic, it'll make it so much easier to study, even though the course might be a little bit harder. So the good thing about being a nurse is that you're quite flexible actually in your role. So you could, while you're in your clinical, later take part in research studies. You could also be the manager of your unit. You could also be the manager of your hospital or the CEO of your hospital. You could also work in an insurance company related to health. There's quite a lot of things, but what I wanted to do specifically is I want to be an ICU nurse, intensive care unit nurse, or emergency department nurse, specifically in the neonatal intensive care unit. So that's for taking care of babies who are in emergent situations. What you can do after you do your degree is there are opportunities to take extra courses. And so these courses will give you the eligibility and the competencies to work in many different fields. As you know, in the medical field, there is over a dozen of different specialties that you can be in. And it's the same as with nursing. There are many different specialties, there are many different roles that you can be in the hospital setting, as well as the community setting too. So you can go and work in a long-term care home. You could be a public health nurse. So with all this COVID stuff going on, the public health nurses help organize the vaccines and collect data in order to inform decision-making for different communities health-wise. So in terms of internship, I really recommend you do an internship. It's not required, of course, and you are given clinical placement opportunities with the University of Toronto nursing program. The only thing is that with the externships, you would have to look for them yourself, but U of T also provides you with a link. So they update this externship page that they have where they'll show you what hospitals are hiring nursing students to come work as an intern for a few months. And if they like you, they'll hire you again and you can continue working with them in your next year as well. And so I highly recommend it because it gives you an extra period to do clinical work and to practice your technical skills. It also really helps with adding to your resume. and it really makes it easier for hiring in the future. So to make friends, I think, is pretty hard sometimes, especially if you're a little bit shy. Things can get a little bit awkward when you're surrounded with a bunch of strangers. You just kind of have to put yourself out there and chat with whatever group. There will be many opportunities for you to make friends. I know it's quite daunting because there's hundreds of people in your class, but there are many opportunities to make friends with people in the same dorm as you. If you do decide to live the dormitory lifestyle, there are opportunities for you to make friends in your lab group, with groups for projects that you have to work on. Or you join in clubs as well. Actually, I forgot to mention joining different clubs where you're interested in, then you're more likely to meet other people who have the same interests as you, and you can get along with those people too. It's kind of different from high school where you're mostly friends with people the same grade. In university, you find that you're friends with all kinds of different aged people. So U of T has a mental health and wellness center for people suffering with mental health, where they can provide counseling for you, and on the day of counseling too. So if you're feeling not great that day, then you can just book an appointment and you can chat with people. There is a mentorship program where upper year students can give assistance to newly entered students for the program. Financially, U of T provide scholarships for people who need them. And there's the OSAP as well that you can apply for. Career-wise, as I mentioned with nursing, there's the nursing externship program page that shows you what hospitals are hiring. You would have to do that application process yourself. So the schools don't really help you with the application process. They just tell you what places are hiring. And for support for LGBTQ and other diversity groups, they do have that. For U of T, for the nursing program, they did have a course which taught us how to identify and do skin assessments for colored skin individuals, so that we weren't just focused on looking at redness of the skin in Caucasian individuals or paler skinned individuals. So that's an example of something where they applied it. They also have a lot of seminars where you can hear about Aboriginal studies, so how to improve for Aboriginal communities, and also hear about Black nurses talking about their experiences in the field. So the thing that I'm going to tell myself, my first year self, is just to have fun. I know grades are very important, but I also believe that it's very important to have that fine balance. If you work too much, you're just going to burn out in the end. But obviously it depends on your future goals. So if you want to apply to a program that's a little bit more prestigious, if you want to go into med school, then maybe you should work really hard right now. I would also recommend to practice those study skills in high school while you have the opportunity. The main thing would be try your best not to procrastinate. Procrastinating leads to a lot of all-nighters that aren't the best, but you know what, in the end, you make it through and you get to where you want to be. I would tell myself to remember to cook often and eat healthy. Sometimes it's faster to grab that instant noodle cup, but in the long run, it doesn't really help with you energy-wise. Also, to try to apply going to the gym every so often. It doesn't have to be crazy, you don't have to go 5 times a week, but to try to do it 2 times a week. So trying to find multiple ways to balance your life so that you can get that nice mixture of hanging out with friends, but also working hard. So that working hard, playing hard mentality. What I wish I would have taken advantage of is the writing centers for sure. So what these writing centers are in universities is that you can write your paper and then bring your paper to the writing center, kind of tell them the expectations of the paper, and they'll help you edit it. And it really helps improve your grades, especially if you're a person that struggles with writing or takes a long time with writing. These people will provide you with a lot of resources to help better your writing as a whole. Organization-wise, a lot of things that I find were very helpful is writing a calendar, just writing out all the due dates of every single assignment that you have, so you can plan working on them earlier than intended. I find that this really helps, especially if you were a procrastinator in high school, and still am a procrastinator. it really helps a lot to prevent that. So that's all the advice that I have. And I wish you guys luck in going into the program.